Okay. I think we are. It looks like we're streaming, but I think we're getting started. For some reason, it streams usually before it goes live. So, hi, I'm Caryn Bird, and I am a hypnotherapist in Burlington, Wisconsin at Win with Hypnosis. I also offer my Attitude of a Champion program, which is a worldwide program to teach and mentor and coach hypnotists and hypnotherapists around working with athletes. But what I'm most excited about today, we're not going to talk about athletes, although athletes are resilient. We are going to, Larry and I have gotten very close in the last, what would be 6 or 7 months or so. So first I want to introduce Larry, and then we are going to talk about resilience. So Larry Garrett is a very dear friend of mine in Chicago, Illinois. And thank you for being here, Larry. Tell us a little bit about you.
Tell me about me. Well, I'm a person that attempts to feel good every day. And that sounds difficult, but I often say I have bad moments, but I used to have bad days. I remember bad weeks. I remember bad months, but right now it's just bad moments. So I live the moment, and I love consciousness. I love people. I love people. I have a phrase that says, if you love your enemies, you have none. And it's very difficult for me to find somebody. I was talking about it. I don't know if you've ever heard the name Diana Barrar. Diana Barrar is probably the longest running female hypnotist in the country. She started hypnosis around 1971. We worked together for about 20, 25 years. And we were talking last night because she was seeing clients stop by to visit. And we were talking just about that, you know, the idea of just being able to be okay with whoever you meet and what's going on, and free from judgments. And that's what seems to work well. So I don't know how to tell you who I am. I am who I am. And,
okay, tell us about your business. How you've had a business since 1970 in Chicago, correct? Your
right.
hypnosis?
Right. I started training in 1968. I trained with an instructor named Fred Shavel. Fred Shavel was a good man. You know, he was a good man. He was a great hypnotist, and it was a very different time of hypnosis then, a very different time. And I had a little attitude at the time. I was kind of a smart ass and a little attitude. And I remember him saying one day in class, he said, "Larry, with your attitude, you'll never make it in hypnosis." I was so stunned. I thought, what does attitude mean? We didn't have Google then to look it up. You had to use a Webster dictionary, but it was almost like looking up resilience. You know, what does attitude mean? So I began to realize I did have an attitude, and the attitude was to protect me from people judging me or hurting me. And you know, Caryn, we've known each other a few years, and I seldom judge anybody. And you know, I've got a couple of people on my list, you know, that I might not associate with anymore, but they were people who in some way weren't congruent with my feelings of life, and they needed to move on. But other than that, I refrain from judging, and I just attempt to accept people. And that training I went through in 1968 lasted over a year. And I remember I started doing stage hypnosis at the local clubs in Chicago at the time, and my instructor got mad at me because he said, I had business cards. I go get one in a couple of minutes. It's in the kitchen, and I got it on my image board. And he said, "What makes you a professional hypnotist?" And I said, "Well, they say if you get paid, you're a professional." And I got paid. He didn't like my attitude, but I did. I got paid $25 to do my first stage show. $25.
I love it. I love it. And you know, where you were talking about when you first started, how you were, you know, maybe you thought a lot of yourself, but now anyone that knows you, Larry, knows that you are all love. All love. Larry just exudes love. And Larry, I want you to tell us a little bit, because we're talking about resilience. We had thought about, what do we talk about today? And the two of us have been going through quite the self-awareness and maybe growth journey in the last 6 or 7 months. And I know that you're just starting to open up about your journey. And for a while it was, you know, like me, you wanted to get through your journey before you could get out there and help others learn from what you went through. So tell us a little bit about your journey and how resilience has played a part in where you are right now and what you have overcome.
Okay. Let me start with the journey like this, first off. First off, I've been a very healthy person since 1970. When I got involved in hypnosis in 68, I wasn't a very healthy person. I had about 4 or 5 medications. I had severe ulcers. I had constant headaches. My hands would tremor. I smoked a couple of packs of cigarettes a day. So my life was really challenged. And I think that's the individual that you find that I mentioned earlier was kind of a smartass. I think that's the person who's really challenged. I think they kind of always have this little attitude, and the attitude is because they don't want to be hurt. And I was being hurt. So hypnosis really helped me. Now, about 1970, I'm 28 years old now, 1970. And all of a sudden, I'm starting to really heal and blossom. And then, and as time went on, I learned about consciousness through a great author and mentor of mine, Ken Keyes, K-E-Y-E-S, like spelled like keys. And he's gone now, but he used to have a school in Coos Bay, Oregon. And I took his classes and read all of his books. He had 9 books, and I was almost like a born again. I was addicted to this consciousness of living the moment and loving myself unconditionally. There were a whole lot of other guidelines, but those were 2. So my obsession became to be okay, to refrain from judging myself. I saw something on Facebook this morning about not judging yourself, and you know, it's almost like your own journey as well. I won't switch gears yet, but it's almost like if you judge yourself for being okay with this journey, must be something wrong with you. How could it be okay? But that's what resilience really interprets. So now I'm free of medications from 1970 until about 1.5 years ago. So about 1.5 years ago, I went through some emotional challenges and stress. And the challenges and stress that I went through started causing my body to feel different. By different, I mean, my body's okay. I mean, you know, I mean, it might not look okay always, but it feels okay. And I'm good. I don't pain. I haven't had pain in many, many years. Even going through this healing process, I was minimized with pain. And that means because pain, I think, is this conflict between the emotions and the body. And it's like, ouch, that hurts. And then the body tightens up and it hurts worse. And the mind says, yes, it hurts worse. And it hurts worse. As I went through a lot of painful situations, one painful situation was this radiation in the side of my neck. So I had neck cancer and tongue cancer and throat cancer. And my biggest concern was losing my voice and not being able to do hypnosis. And I stop that, Blair, stay in a moment, you'll be okay. If you can't speak, you could write. And I thought, yeah, that's true. So I let it go. And so I think resilience is viewing the worst possible situation and making it okay. So going back to 1.5 years ago, my body started changing because of some traumas I had gone through unrelated to physical, more emotional traumas that were going on in my life, and I needed to move on. In other words, when I have an emotional trauma, Karen, and anyone who's on here right now, I have this feeling of letting it go. But when other people get involved, sometimes you can't let it go because they won't allow you to. And so I was trying to let it go and at the same time holding some, so my body began to change, as I said, physically. So around February of this year, there was a bump on my neck about 4 centimeters long and about 2 centimeters wide, and it was protruding probably maybe 1 centimeter out, and so about that thick. And so I didn't think anything of it. But then it was brought to my attention, what's that bump in your neck? I don't know. So the next appointment I had with my doctor, which was in March, I said, I got this bump on my neck. What do you think? And he pressed on it, and he says, I don't want to concern you, but I think you have it looked at. Okay, so I have it looked at. You know, consciousness takes us in great places, Karen. For me, it's always giving me exactly what I need. Not always what I want, but eventually I want it. But what I need now to be well. I happen to feel consciously, without ego, that I'm a great manifester. I could manifest anything, and I have. You know, I have this theory Wayne Dyer used to use about the cat chasing his tail. And he says, why are you chasing your tail? He says, I heard I will have the riches of life if I catch my tail. And the guy says, well, don't you know, if you just go through life, your tail will follow you everywhere where you go. So I let my tail just follow me, and things just happen. So going back to this diagnosis, I was diagnosed by a hospital that I didn't feel good with. I didn't like the neck surgeon. He called me on the phone one day, and Mike, my maintenance guy, and I were building cabinets at the office, and he says, Mr. Garrett, yeah, that bump on your neck is cancerous. Well, you think the guy would have said to me, hey, Mr. Garrett, come on in and visit with me. I want to talk to you about that bump on your neck. But I guess he wanted to save time and didn't want to deal with me and didn't know how. And so I want to use the word that I don't usually use, but I was bummed out. So being bummed out is not common for me. I was over by Funda and Steve Kahn's house, Dr. Funda Kahn, you might know, and her and I and Steve were talking about this, and we were discussing, and he said, it's a long story, I don't need to get into it, but he connected me with the University of Chicago Hospital, and that was the greatest gift that I could ever receive. So as I said, we're always where we need to be, and I needed to be at the University of Chicago Hospital. And from that point on, it was continual healing, continual positive energies. Everything was good. And they said it would take a year and a half for me to heal. From my first diagnosis in March till September 18th, I became cancer-free. So resilience was for me looking forward to every treatment, looking forward to the discomforts, looking forward to the healing. That's resilience for me. I think I got long-winded. I'm sorry, Karen, go ahead.
No, that was great. We wanted to hear your story. And you were right. It was so great because we were talking and you had said, you know, have you lifted up resilience? And I knew that I wanted you on here because your story of resilience is amazing.
Thank you.
And I also, when you said, what is our theme going to be, or what are we going to talk about, for some reason that word resilience popped into my head. And I feel like that's a common ground for both of us. Mm-hmm. And the reason that is such a common ground is the definition of resilience, or what resilience is, like you had mentioned, is our ability to bounce back from the stresses of life. It's not about avoiding the stress, like you. It's not about avoiding the cancer or hating it, because when we hate it, we're not allowing ourselves to heal from it. We're holding on to that hate and closing our hearts. It's learning how to thrive with it, love it, and let it go, right? Mm-hmm. And I know you kind of mentioned that. Does that sound a little bit about like what you've done? And I know that your journey was not easy. I know that you went through you went through chemotherapy. Like, you had to really work hard at getting your health back. True?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I mean, a couple of times, I thought that my life had ended because, the healing process of anybody who has had cancer is an incredible stage of life. And I think this word cancer has many factors that are uncomfortable. One is we fear it. We hate the word. We dread it, of course. And the last one is we don't understand it. And I have the wonderful gift that I've ever had, and that is to have lived cancer and understand it. So, Bernie Siegel says in his book, Love, Medicine, and Miracles, he says, we can't fight the cancer. We need to learn to know the cancer. And I always remembered that phrase. And I said, I can't fight this thing. So I would continually meditate and do my self-hypnosis to learn it. What's this about? How come I can't move? How come my nose won't stop bleeding? I had a nosebleed one time for 5 hours, So yes, we both have been through challenges. And so here we are talking on, January 13th, 2021. And we say, oh, isn't life great this morning? We both woke up. What a gift that is. Every morning when I wake up, I say, I got a wonderful gift. I woke up. But the real issue is the journey that we have been through. Let's make it up. The journey we were going through in July and August. When did Josh leave you? When did Josh leave?
May 22nd. May 22nd.
May 22nd. Okay. So here we go. How about May 23rd? What was that day like? And how about June 1st? What was that day like? See, so we've worked our way through resilience that says, understand this. Don't fight this. I don't know about losing a child, Karen. I've shared that with you. But my empathic consciousness, and it gets emotional, can really understand that this must be a horrific type of energy. You know, I know somebody who had nothing but discomforts with his older son for a long time. And when the son died, of course, all the guilt and everything of having had discomforts. You had closeness with your son. So I say that May 22nd, May 23rd, May 24th were horrific. But resilience caused you to keep looking. I think then we started connecting and we started talking about our journeys, and I'm thinking we helped each other. You know, before we came on here live, you said, you know, can you take somebody else's blood? You're gonna offer me your blood. Oh my God, offer me your blood. So I'm going to say to you, yeah, we have faced resilience, Caryn. Yes, we have.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think you're right. You know, there's different pillars that tools that we can have to be more resilient in life. And
Yeah.
you have helped me incredibly in my journey also. Your wisdom and your knowledge of life. You know, you said things to me that resonated, and then I think on them often, like, you know, how do we help people because of the journey that we've had? And like you've said is, you know, and I've wondered this many times, what would it feel like if tomorrow I was diagnosed with a cancer like you had? And I can't imagine what that would feel like, or how I would get through it, or how I would behave around it.
Yeah.
And it's the same thing with losing a child. If someone would have told me prior to my 23-year-old son, and he died in a motorcycle accident, it was, you know, immediate. There was no warnings. It was very sudden. If someone would have told me that would have happened to my life, and you know, here's the thing is my boys were my everything. I was an at-home mom for a very long time. They were my lifeblood. They were my everything. And I look back now in journals on Josh, and because I wrote in journals through their childhood, and my goal was that if I wrote in a journal for each boy on their wedding day, I could hand them their journal and say, this was your childhood, and they would have the memories of it. And I was looking back in his, and it's funny as a mom, I don't know if it's funny, but I continue to just say how amazing he is. I can't imagine life without him, how much I loved him, how he's the light of my life, how, you know, I never thought I could love anything like I loved. And if someone would have told me that he was going to leave this earth at 23 years old, I would have said, no way can I ever get through that. I am not strong enough. I don't know how I would handle it. It's just no way, like no way. And, you know, having gone through it, I'm still trying to put my finger on it. As you guys can see, he's actually back here. He was an amazing wrestler. He lived his 23 years of life, and those are all the words, you know, that I use with my clients, determined and fierce and driven, and because that's what he was. He truly was. He was a state champ twice. He was a national champ. He was in future Olympians. And he lived in his 23 years a life that was more full and more exciting than I think I had lived in, you know, my 49 years of life until the last. And, you know, I attribute it to, like, that word resilient is a beautiful word. And there are things that create resilience in us. And part of it, I think, is because, you know, I said this to my friend the other day, and Larry, you can probably attest to it, is I can't quite understand, because humanly, it's not possible to understand how you can be at peace after losing a child. Because what everyone says, that is like a parent's worst nightmare. Like, you can't even imagine, you know, what that would feel like, or that's our worst fear, and we're always worried about that happening and how would we get through it. But part of it is, again, I can't explain what it is in me that I have peace around it. It doesn't feel as if it's from something higher. There's something higher up there, the higher consciousness, the higher good, the divine, my God, that allows me to feel peace around it. And if, you know, I think one of my goals, and I'm still trying to figure out what I get to do with this, is to help others find the same thing I see in you, Larry, is the peace around stress, the peace around unhappiness and something difficult in our lives. And that comes down to resilience. right?
Right. You know, don't you almost feel weird that it's, I don't want to use the word okay, but don't you almost feel weird that you're dealing with it?
Yeah,
Yes.
I do. I feel like people don't understand me because I, I, I honestly have not had a morning. I can say I have not had a morning, including the morning after, where I was not looking forward to getting out of bed. I still
No.
look forward to getting out of bed every morning because I had purpose, and that's one of the pillars of resilience.
Yeah.
Purpose.
With your son gone, you can't have purpose. Right?
Right.
Yeah. However, resilience, as this topic is about, is collectively as the days go on. Remember, I said earlier, I used to have bad days, bad weeks, bad months. I even remember bad years. Now I have bad moments because collectively, that's what happens. I think I may have shared that story with you on some of our personal conversations. Uh, when I was through with chemotherapy outpatient, which was once a week every Friday for about 3-4 hours, that I'd sit with this tube in my arm. Then I was admitted to the hospital. So as I was preparing, I said to some people, I said, I'm really looking forward to this next entry of the radiation and the chemo. Chemo was 24/7, 24 hours a day while I was in the hospital. I had a tube hooked onto me even when I was sleeping. Twice a day for 30 days, I had to have my neck burnt and the inside of my throat burnt. I couldn't eat for 2 months. But I was looking forward to that because I knew looking forward to it, many things would happen. One is I begin to heal. So you see, the same way with losing Josh on May 22nd, is that time doesn't always heal everything, but the collective process of this time makes us more resilient. And so this word resilient comes back into our vocabulary. And I was looking forward to healing, and I was looking forward to knowledge. And as far as me being at peace, Caryn, it'd be difficult for you to see me angry. I have been, but I haven't been angry in a long time. I don't see anger in my consciousness because anger is based on fear. If I'm scared, I've lost my son, then I'm going to get angry. But as I work through resilience, I realize I'm not angry. I have fears that I have lost my son, so that creates the anger.
Yeah.
Then as you adjust more, you know, Caryn, if we love our enemies, we don't have any.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, that is so true. Can you hear me? I mean, I thought there was a big, okay. When you talk about anger, it's interesting because I had a friend over the other day and she had lost her parent, her father, a few years ago, and she had said how angry she was for a while. And I can honestly tell you, I didn't go through, we have the stages of grief. I did not go through an angry phase. I was never angry. And I don't know why. And I said, I just never felt.
I missed the last couple of words about the anger. Go ahead.
That she said, well, there's the stages of grief.
Yes.
And that anger is one of the stages of grief. And I said, I never felt angry. And she said, well, don't you think you're still going to go through it? And I said, no, I really don't. I feel like I skipped over that anger. And I'll tell you what, we found out 2 weeks, I think it was, after Josh's accident and then he passed away. We found out that the driver that pulled out in front of him, he was on his motorcycle and it was just an immediate impact, was over the legal limit and was being charged with homicide. And, everyone, when they find that out, their first question is, aren't you angry? And I can honestly say I have never felt one bit of anger toward that man because we all make mistakes. We all regret. And he has to, for the rest of his life, not only be prosecuted for it, but live with the fact of what he did. And so my anger isn't going to change what had happened. My anger toward him isn't going to change that he made that choice that day. And so I honestly do not and did not feel anger toward him. I almost feel bad that he made that human choice.
You are a great woman. You are a great, great woman. You see, because what you're saying is that this was not an issue where this alcoholic guy said, gee, I think I'm going to kill this person on a motorcycle. It wasn't done in that way. And I guess I'm going to say that you somehow realize that, but think about the consciousness. Maybe that's why we connected, Caryn, originally at Heartland, because the consciousness sometimes is incredible. You know, I've connected with so many wonderful people over the years, through this great spiritual journey called hypnosis. You know, I'm writing about that right now. To me, hypnosis is like a religion. It's not a religion like a dogmatic type of direction. It's more of a religion of a spiritual type that keeps allowing us to glow and grow. So I'm going to say again, I hear you the way you're speaking. Your friend and many of our viewers right now might say, "What's wrong with you, Caryn? You should be angry." Will I bring Josh back? No. You should be very upset. Will that bring Josh back? No. So again, we get into this word resilience of being able to face our culprit, face our devil, and say, it's okay. We're going to make this work somehow. You can't bring them back. I think about that with relationships and how many people you and I both have sat and talked to people who are going through a relationship breakup and say, oh my God, I want to go back with this person. But it wasn't okay, and we have to move on sometimes. So death is an interesting experience, and we can't bring it back. We just can't. So good for you, Caryn. Good for you. I think of the word worry in our vocabulary. And somebody says, aren't you worried? And you say, no, I'm not worried. Don't you care? So it's almost like if you don't worry, you don't care. How inappropriate that is, but yet we use that word in our speaking as though it means that we care. And worrying is not a good issue. Worrying is the entrance of anxiety. Anxiety is an emotion that feels like there's a fear, but nothing to fear yet. And the issue is, somebody spoke to me last night. They called me last night with some concerns, some worries about it, some issues coming up. And I'm so worried, but it hasn't happened yet. It might not even come up, and it might be okay. But what if it's not? But what if it is?
Yep.
So there you go, Caryn. Caryn Bird, you are a great woman. Thank you.
And so are you.
You're good. Yeah.
So are you, Larry. And we do that worry. Same with you. So, some people worry about their health all the time. And actually, worry creates health issues, right? Because the more we worry, the more anxiety. And then we create, unhealthy things going on in our body. And you said this to me, and it really resonated. And it was around worry and the way that we handle things. Now, my son drove a motorcycle. Did I like that idea? No. Was I the parent that said when he was little, my children will never drive a motorcycle, right? Never say never.
Right.
He got a motorcycle. He was 23 years old. He got to make his own choices. I had worked at a head injury clinic when I was in college, studying for my psychology degree. And I had seen people that had gotten in motorcycle accidents without helmets, and they were paraplegics. And I was always like, you don't want that to happen to you. Wear a helmet, wear a helmet. And he still was driving a motorcycle. But did I worry on a daily basis because he was on his motorcycle? No. And would it have helped me or changed anything? No.
Nothing.
Only thing that I can see that would have possibly changed if I would have worried more about him riding on a motorcycle was it could have affected our relationship in a negative way, because my worry would have created me reacting a certain way toward him, like he sees my anxiety or I get angry over it. And I can honestly say that one of the reasons that I feel like I'm at peace so much about everything is I don't have regrets nor guilt about the mom I was and the parenting. And so I didn't hang on to that, right? But if I would have worried about him driving a motorcycle every day, it would have created a relationship where I could have possibly had guilt around the way I parented or the way I treated him. So you are so right about that worry, right?
Sure. I remember my mother. My mother was a very strong Italian warrior. And my older son had a motorcycle at the time and kept it in her garage. And every time he'd come by to get his motorcycle and visit with her, she'd say, I'm so worried about you on that motorcycle. I'm so worried. And it was creating a separation with them because he didn't want to hear about that. And she wanted to say it. And it was creating, so just what you're saying. And then you might have had a worse situation of the same experience occurring, having had a separation in your relationship, but you had a close relationship, which was wonderful.
Exactly.
Mhm.
Exactly. And imagine, if you had worried about what was going to happen when you were diagnosed with cancer.
Yeah.
What would have happened if you would have changed your positivity and reacted on worry? Like, where do you think you'd be today?
Yeah. See, that's an interesting thought because my general practitioner, I've known for probably 25, 30 years, is a real positive man. And we sit and we talk sometime and we talk about health and things. And as I say, I've always been healthy until recently. And now I'm healthy again. So imagine how I just changed that sentence. That I've always been healthy till recently, but now I'm healthy again. And so he spent almost an hour telling me all the things that might happen to me. I was really upset about that, the negative things he was telling me. I thought, I'm never going to talk to this man again. So I went to see him probably about a month or two ago, and I says, all those things you told me occurred. I had a G-tube put in my stomach. I had a port put in my chest. I was unable to walk for weeks. I was unable to eat. And he told me all these terrible things that might happen, but I didn't want to hear those things. But yet each of those things that he told me occurred, and each of them I worked through. So that's interesting. Would it have been better if he didn't tell me and I was surprised and said, oh, wow, this is rough. I didn't know about this. But I think I shared with you my most favorite phrase, and that was, if this is my worst day today, I could deal with anything.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. I love that.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And it's true. I mean, it is about that. So I just wanted to mention, and then I wanted to tell you something too that is so crazy with the connection. So there's the Pillars of Resiliency when I look at it, and it all makes so much sense. And these may help a lot of you that are hypnotists and hypnotherapists when you think about resilience and teaching it to your clients. Is the one is self-awareness, is being aware of your self-awareness allows you to understand yourself and your attitude and the way you respond, right? You're self-aware of the way that you are responding to things. So that's the one. The second one is mindfulness. And mindfulness is a buzzword right now, but really being mindful right in the moment instead of worrying what we just talked about what might happen, just being mindful, practicing hypnosis like you did of how am I feeling? How do I get this to stop, right? Third one is self-care. When you are resilient, you take care of yourself. You put yourself first when you need to. Fourth one is positive relationships. Like, it's really just reaching out to others and allowing yourself to be vulnerable, first of all, like you are being, right? Being vulnerable, creating those relationships, love. They always talk about love. And then the last one, having purpose. Purpose in our lives, purpose. What
I
is
missed
the
the last one. The last one was what, Karen? I missed the last one. The last one was what?
purpose?
Purpose. Yes. Yes. Purpose.
Yeah.
Purpose.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes. Uh-huh.
So yeah, resilience is just an amazing word. I encourage you all to, start thinking about how resilient you are and how you get to be more resilient in order to, what I believe, live the life that I am meant to live. In fact, the other day I was getting up in the morning and I do my meditation and my prayer in the morning. And, don't think I haven't had moments where I thought, Josh, you lucky little sucker. It sure would be a whole lot easier if I could be up there with you in that beautiful place and what I believe is heaven. And, down here is where it's so tough. But when I open myself up to, my intuition, my higher consciousness, like we talk about, what I heard very loud and clear is that you don't get to give up. You don't get to be anywhere else but right where you are, because there's a reason and a purpose for going through what you're going through. And,
That's what we need to see. That's what we need to see. I think of that also, Karen. I think about, of all people I know, Larry Garrett shouldn't get cancer. Right? I mean, I'm healthy. I eat well. My consciousness is strong. And it was a physical type. So that doesn't give me an excuse, but it's saying I shouldn't get cancer. I should be healthy and well. And I think I mentioned to you my middle son, Scott. also had cancer, diagnosed almost the same time. He also was cancer-free almost the same time. And I shared a story when I said to him, now how come you as a vegan and me as a positive mental person both have cancer, and your brothers who think negatively or differently, I won't say negatively, but they are, why don't they have cancer? And he says, because we can deal with it, they can't. So again, that becomes resilience to me. That says things come to the ones that can handle it. You know, I remember, you know Ernie Tecklemeyer? You know Ernie Tecklemeyer? No? Okay, so Ernie, I don't think he's been at, I don't think he's been to Heartland, but he's at most of the conferences. Ernie's been in hypnosis many, many years. He's about 84 years old, a great person. And he gave me a little note one day and he says, God never gives you anything you can't handle. So, of course, if you lose a son in a motorcycle accident or you get diagnosed with cancer, you say, bullshit. You know, I can handle that. Yeah. And so I think to myself, it's almost true, but everybody cannot handle losing a son and everybody cannot handle cancer. But I think that people can, we could teach others too. I feel like we could teach other people to do great things because of what we've been through. I believe that.
Yep.
Yeah.
I have to agree. The other day I was thinking, honestly, how blessed I am that I have been able to stay in this place of peace and joy and love with having to deal with the grief and struggling through the grief. But I am so blessed to be here and to be in a space that I'm in that, like you said, we get to teach others how to do that because they don't all have, I don't know if the word is lucky, right? As lucky as we are to be able to manage it the way that we do.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. We are. And we are gifted because we're doing this. And I think this Facebook Live right now, for whoever might be observing, is hearing us and I hope learning from us that things are going to be okay. Had I ever shown you my radiation mask and what I had to go through twice a day?
No, I didn't get to see that. Oh, I'd love to
show you something.
I'd love to see it. I love Larry's house. It's a beautiful old, probably a Victorian house in Chicago. As you can see all that beautiful woodwork back there. I'm giving house tours now. Let's see, coming back.
Okay, I'm back. And so every day, every morning around 10 a.m. and every afternoon around 3 p.m., I went to this radiation room, which had a door that was about a foot thick and heavy. They had to close the door when I was in the radiation room so the radiation wouldn't get to the caregivers. And there were 4 young people there who always took good care of me, and they really enjoyed looking forward to seeing me come because they said that almost everybody that had to go through this had to be sedated to be able to go through it because it would take 20, 30 minutes, and I had to lay on a flat table, say like a massage table without padding, just a hard surface, and I had to wear this mask for 20 to 30 minutes, screwed on down to the floor so tight that I couldn't move my head to the right or left because the radiation had to go through this little mark here and I had to hit it just perfect. And once this was on, by the way, you'll see there's little holes here. Little twist bolts went through there. So they would flatten it down and then they would screw these bolts down and this fit so perfect on my face. It was made. I mean, the shape of it is made. I mean, I could almost see the profile there for a minute. You know?
I was just going to ask if that was like molded to your face.
It's molded wet and soft, and it's like a screen if you notice. And see this cutout right here is interesting too because it almost spoils the shape of it. That was for my port. So my port was right here, and this way they were able to not hurt it, not touch it. You know, you don't want to hurt the port because it's implanted under your skin. And so that mask I just showed you twice a day for 30 radiation treatments. And they would look forward to it because of resilience, Karen. And I'd say, okay, let's do it. and I started doing my self-hypnosis. And you know, when you do self-hypnosis or you're hypnotized, every part of your body relaxes. And so my body, my face would relax, where if you have anxiety or stress or anger, you tighten. And if you tighten, the mask is going to be confining. And they told me that most of them did. I met so many great people on this journey. People I'm still connected with. My chemo nurse still gets on our Zooms. She was on Sunday when you were on our Zoom Sunday. I introduced her, Teresita. And now she's learning how to speak to her patients through our connection. Now, if that's all I've gathered out of having to go through months of pain and discomforts and this thing called cancer, then that was worth it, just meeting her so she could talk to the patients with a positive energy. I'm looking forward to it. I have gained such respect at this hospital that they're speaking about after COVID, that I could come in there and do some consulting regarding hypnosis. What a nice opportunity that would be for hypnosis. As a, one of the things with me with hypnosis is to me a profession where we can help people. Then we need to help people. Doesn't mean we need to say close your eyes and relax. It means we need to walk the talk. If we don't walk the talk, we're in the wrong profession. If you sold shoes, you'd have to wear the nicest shoes in the store, or I wouldn't buy them from you. And if you're doing hypnosis and you're teaching people how to feel resilient and how to be positive, then you need to be resilient and you need to be positive. Yes.
Yep, you're right. You're right.
Mm-hmm.
And when we do it from our hearts, we can. And most of us in this business are, right? That's why we're in this business, because we're healers. But remembering exactly that when we're whole, when we have the emotional and the mental, and we're complete, we're whole, because we are letting negative emotions go and pass through us, we're so much more able to help others because we're open, our heart is open. Just like you, I mean, I remember even before this journey, on my one of my summits that I did, you talked all about love. It was all about love, and that was before.
Love. Yeah. Seldom do I send a note to anybody without saying I love you. I don't say love ya. Some people YA, love ya. A little fear there. But I use the words, I love you. Now, Raminta, who was on before we started, we spent a lot of time learning about that. And she's observing us right now, right? She's viewing right now.
Sonia?
Raminta, who was on before we started.
So.
You can't tell who.
I'm afraid when I check it, I don't know if our cameras pop out or not. Can you still see me? Okay.
I can see you, yes. Yeah.
So we're still on then. Let's see if she's
Raminta and I spent a lot of time with that, and I taught her that she needs to love everybody, and that's how we started this relationship of talking about this. And we would have our Sunday meetings before COVID, and we'd sit in a big circle, and I would say, Raminta, I love you. And so everybody says, oh, Larry and Raminta have something going here. But the real issue is we need to love.
Yep, and you know what? She just said yes, thanks. So she is on here watching.
Good. So the issue is too, yes, and we've learned. Thank you, Raminta. And the issue is also that if we look at love, I always like to look at the opposing factor of anything. So the opposite of resilience, the opposite of love is fear. So when we don't have love, we have fear. And we could say, I like you, Caryn, but really, Caryn, I love you. And of course, if your husband's watching, he says, you crazy guy, you can't love my wife. But the real issue is, I do, and I always used to think this crazy thought. I mean, I know who I am. And I thought to myself, one of these days they're going to take me to court and they're going to say, this guy was telling my wife how much he loves her. And I'd have 50 other people in the courtroom saying, and he tells me that too.
Me too.
So I would refrain from getting in trouble because I love them all.
That's right. That's right.
But, and feel it, Caryn. We're laughing right now because it feels good right now. but feel that, because I know that's the way you reply to me as well.
Yes.
Feel good, loving is.
Yeah.
Then why are we so scared to love? Because we might be rejected. And the biggest fear of life, the biggest fear in life is rejection, and the biggest fear of life is death. So now when we think about being rejected, we fear that nobody will know us or like us or be nice to us. Somebody brought it up to me recently, I like people to like me. That's my insecurity from childhood. That's my insecurity from grammar school, that I wanted people to like me.
Mm.
I say, I like you, do you like me?
Yeah.
Well, no, I still want people to like me, but I'm not asking them to. I'm just living the purpose. I want people to buy shoes from me, but I'm going to wear nice shoes. And these shoes are going to shine. And they're going to be the best shoes in the store. And then they'll trust me that I sell good shoes.
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
And that is one thing that I always want to be sure that my clients recognize when they walk out of here, is that you get to love yourself. And when you love yourself, you
Yeah.
truly love yourself,
Yeah.
then you can give so much more love and be loved because
First.
you love. And then you don't worry about if someone likes
Yeah.
you, because you love you, and then you can give love and it's out, right? It's there.
Ken Kai's taught us that if, his book's still available on Amazon. It's way back, late 70s when I trained with him. And he used to teach 7 centers of consciousness. And the first ones were more fear related. The first one was security. And that's when you're feeling secure. The next one was sensations. That's more like addiction to food or addiction to cigarettes. And the next one, the sensation of power. That was anger. The fourth one was a sensation of love. First, we needed to love ourselves before attempting to love anybody else. So we can't go around saying, I love you, do you love me? Oh, what we're really saying, I love you, now I need to be loved. But I need to be loved by me. And, I like that phrase, I may have shared it with you. It's not arrogance when it's true.
Yeah.
So it's not ego. Larry Garrett's such an egotistical maniac. No, I'm not. I am who I am. I sit on the toilet with myself every day. I feed my dog and walk my dog. I do everything everybody else does. There's nothing different about Larry Garrett than there is about anybody who's watching us right now, than the fact that I take the risk of being okay. And I'm going to say this to your viewers, to the viewers right now. Are you okay? If you're not okay, you need to question, why aren't you okay? We might say it's about history. We might say it's about the inner child. We might say it's about fears. But none of those are existing now. They're mostly just habits. And habits to me are like reflexes. If I take this peach seed, I'm gonna plant this, by the way. If I take this peach seed and I throw it at you, you duck. And if I say, I promise I won't throw it, but I'm going to pretend and swing it, you still duck. Why'd you duck? I told you I won't, because the reflex is set up. So even though there's nothing to fear, the reflex is set up to fear. It doesn't belong to you anymore. Stop it. Stop it. Nobody's throwing anything anymore. My nickname in grammar school was Larry the Fairy, Larry, because I wasn't like Josh into athletics or sports. I couldn't catch a ball. I couldn't play football because I was afraid I'd get hurt. I couldn't get the ball in the basket, so I never played basketball. But it didn't make me bad. It just made me more undesirable by the other boys. The other boys didn't like me because I didn't get into the athletics or fight. I've never been in a fight my whole life. I've never had somebody show aggressive energy to me. I've traveled around the world and nobody's ever hurt me. I'd say that's a gift. Maybe it's because I show love.
Yep.
If you show love, you're not going to have that.
Yep. And look where you are right now. It's beautiful. That's beautiful. All right. Well, are there any final closing thoughts that you would like to give our viewers? Any words of wisdom? Because I know you have like oodles of them. Any words of wisdom for us as closing thoughts?
For the people who are hypnotists, and of course most of them aren't because they're on profitable hypnosis, I always like to share that I have many writings that I've done that I think work. Karen, I speak with confidence. I've read many books. I remember the first 5 years in hypnosis, I had a collection of books on hypnosis and mind-related things like transcendental meditation, and I was obsessed with books on the mind. And then I began to realize that everything I was reading had something very similar. And I am a little bit of a radical, so I wanted something different. So I began to write myself a while back, about 30 years ago, and I began to write different things. You know, I've been writing for the Hypnosis Journal for about 31 years, and the articles I write are seldom on hypnosis inductions or hypnosis deepening. They're more on consciousness to be mixed with hypnosis. If you're just going to hypnotize people and tell them not to smoke cigarettes or not to eat those cookies, I don't see much success. But like our conversation we've had, if I could speak to the person about resilience, if I could speak to the person about loving themselves, if I could speak about the person staying in the moment, then I'm going to have success. So I have some great writings. If some of your viewers want, they could contact me, and I've sent you some, but I have some on pre-talk. I have a manual on pre-talk, and these are all gifts. I'm not selling anything, like, you know, like yourself. You know, we've talked about that. You know, here you are working your butt off on this group that you have in the profitable hypnosis, and I say, so what are you gaining out of it? You're helping people. Look at these presentations you've done with all of these speakers, including myself. Those were wonderful, wonderful presentations. How much did you get paid?
Nothing.
No. So it's not about an issue of money, it's about an issue of prosperity. But I believe, and the longer I know you, the more I see it, I believe prosperity hits us both real well, because prosperity isn't about money. Prosperity is about abundance. I have an abundance of love and resilience, and that abundance I have gives me the ability to manifest what I need. So I'm going to say to you that I have it all. I have it all. I even wrote an article. I saw it recently, how you can have it all. And it was a good article. I read it and I thought, ooh, who wrote this? Because most of the time I write when I'm channeling when I write. And then when I look back on it a year later, I thought, ooh, who wrote that? And it was me.
I love it.
That's it. We did well. Didn't we do well?
We did well.
Huh?
We did well.
Yeah.
And my closing remarks then to that is, you are correct. When we think abundance, a lot of people think about abundance meaning love, but there is abundance in so many things. And when we stop living out of scarcity, of fear, of what if, and I don't have enough, abundance is the word that the universe and God, everything gives you everything you need when you live in abundance of love and generosity and kindness. And moving from scarcity to abundance is again, something that you've done and I've done, and working every day at it. But it's a beautiful thing. So I love that word too.
I love it. So how did our reviews go? Do people have some comments? I can't see them.
Well, so Raminta said, yes, thanks. William Mitchell said, no anger is unusual. So that's
it is.
Yeah, that was one of his comments, and it is. I mean, I understand that. And
you tell William Mitchell though that Caryn Bird and Larry Garrett are unusual.
Right, and so is William. He's amazing too. Yes. So, so I'm going to sign off now. If anyone has any questions, please feel free. I know Larry is open. I am open. Send us an email. Comment on the video here below. We will respond to you, right, Larry? We'll be keeping an eye on it.
Yes, we will. And plug Heartland right now. Is William's there? William, we're both looking forward to Heartland, and that's a friendly conference. It's nice energies, and that's how I met Caryn, of course. And
it is, and it was one of my first conferences, and I think it was William even that encouraged me to come down there, and I absolutely loved it. It was so beautiful, and it was small, all the great connections. So yeah, it's a great conference. Yeah.
And before we hang up, William, absence of anger is not unusual, it's unique. And it takes a lot of practice, and the more love you have, the less anger you will feel. again, pretend that anger comes from fear. This is what I believe. Then if we refrain from having fear, then we have less anger. If we have less anger, we can learn how to have little or none. Again, I don't think that many people are going to find me getting angry, but you know, you
Great
never
point.
know. You know, somebody might.
Yeah, great point. And like you said, Larry, is I honestly, I can say, like, I've not been in this space before. I would have never expected not to feel anger around everything and everything that I have been through recently, because I have felt angry. I was a very angry person at one time. I remember screaming and hollering and swearing. Like, I have felt anger and been an angry person before. So
Yeah.
this isn't like something that I was just born with.
So we could evolve.
Yes.
Can't we? Yes.
Yeah, we were so evolved. Right?
I used to have it as well, but I was very sick then. Can't have it now.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. Thank you all for joining us. And again, any comments, any concerns, anything you want to ask us, we're here. We're open. All right.
We're here. Love you.
Bye,
Bye-bye. I love you. Not love you. I love you. Bye.
I love you too. All right.